So in 32 more days, we're going to hit pre-production on that crime thriller I was talking about, the one that had a reading on last month. Oh no, it was the beginning of this month. So pre-production starts on May 1st, and it's going to be for the crime thriller, and we're going to be shooting a proof of concept or slash a short film that would be paired with the screenplay. So it's exciting. I've been writing a lot of pages, and my co-writer slash director is revising, and we just been it's been a few years since we started this project, and we're making a lot of progress. We have a lot of content. We really understand the story, like both of us, and it helps to understand your characters and to know what how they behave, their attitude, what their likes, their dislikes. This is really like, it's good to know your characters, to have backstory, to really know them like they're your family or your friends or your coworkers, because that will help you to write stronger characters. When you open screenplays, it's usually like they have these weaknesses, and then we have to confront them. We have to put them in really tough situations that will drive them to make decisions, like in the turning point, or in the midpoint when they have to make another really tough decision. So there's like a lot of just writing screenplays is fun. You just write them as stories and not as counter direction, because the shooting script is usually the producer's assistant that will prepare that, or sometimes directors that are writers will write a shooting script because they know that they'll be writing and directing, so they kind of understand the goals of the script, of the story of the film. But yeah, it's exciting to hit this point. It's kind of hard to live the life, not the writing life, but the life of survival while you're doing it, because of the jobs you pick. And sometimes if you choose certain jobs that are really inconsistent, that they create challenges. So what I recommend, my best advice, is to pick a job that will allow you to survive, like a good job that's stable, that's something that you like, that's not going to create a lot of pressure, stress, and just really focus on your writing. When you have a chance, and listen to podcasts, read books, write, even if you feel like you're not doing a good job. Like me, say, talking to you right now, there's times like when I do the vlogs that I feel like that in my mind that I'm not doing a good job, that I'm that I feel that, oh no, this is not turning out good. And then when I listen to it again, it sounds good. Just like when I'm writing pages, I'm like, oh, like, where's this scene going? The scene is not going anywhere, and I don't even know why I even wrote this scene. And then later on I read it, and it's a good scene. But the best way is to write shorter, to write action and dialogue that's very like crisp, and to write shorter. I mean, you could write longer dialogue. I mean, Quentin Tarantino is really good with his dialogue, but a lot of times there's a lot of conversation in his screenplays. When you look at like Pulp Fiction, or Inglourious Bastards, or even Django Unchained. I mean, these are all like good movies because he's known for that type of, like, he could get away with the dialogue, having a lot of dialogue, but you want to have a good balance. When you're writing screenplays, you want to make sure that you have a good flow, and that you could say more using less words, but using more impactful words. Of like, instead of having like 5 lines of description, you could have a line of description that's powerful. So a good rule of thumb is to write 1 line of description, like to introduce a character, like say a lot in 1 line, and then something, a dialogue or something that kind of shows that character, whether it's just like a small character, and is get into a habit of writing stronger like actions that tell more than writing like a lot of description. I mean, scripts are really based on visuals, so it's good to write a lot of action versus like a lot of dialogue. I probably prefer maybe 60-40, action, dialogue, but I could get away with 70-30. I could write more action that tells a story of, like, knowing personal growth really helps out with your characters, because your characters do have to evolve, and sometimes they do change, or it gets worse. They might start off in a good situation and it gets really bad at the end, or it might start off in a bad situation, and then they learn about themselves, and then they look at the world differently. So it's really, screenplays are about life, about things that we do, like real life. And if you understand real life and like personal accountability, personal responsibility, um, just being humble and valuing yourself, respecting yourself, loving yourself, and just all the things that we go through, us getting hurt, when people have breakups or divorces, or they sometimes feel alone. All these, you could inject these into your screenplay, and that it helps to know how characters behave, or what they want, or what they desire, or what they need, and really write it that way. Write an authentic script. Don't write for like the market in a way of like, I'm gonna write something because I want to sell it. Write it out of your heart. Make a great story and try to help the world to make a difference. If you write your story with honesty, and you're genuine in your writing, then you're going to do well as a screenwriter, as an author, as a television writer. But if you start to write because you want to make money, then you're going to find a lot of disappointment. Because if you don't sell screenplays and you're writing like 50 of them. So really look at screenwriting as growth, that as you write more stories, then you grow with your stories, with the characters, and that you'll remember these characters, and that because you're creating them, and you'll remember certain pieces of dialogue or action, that stuff that stays with people when they watch it. They're like, hey, I remember when you wrote that script and this character said this. Like when I grew up in the 80s, then you would know that a lot of the characters, like, in Karate Kid, or, like those little powerful movies, those feel-good movies. And those are the movies I like, because a character is weak, and then later on they confront their weaknesses, and then all of a sudden they're a champion at the end. They win something. Or maybe they fall short, but they found out something about themselves. And I think like maybe those father and son type of movies, or mother-daughter, like where there's like conflict between them, or maybe they're uncomfortable, or something happened, and then they're able to grow together to overcome the past, and to become stronger, because through conflict we find out more about ourselves, and that if we grow tired, then we're going to make changes, because sometimes we just don't want to keep repeating the same things that are going to make us to frustrate us and to set us back further, because there's only a matter of time where you're going to change. And sometimes people say you're not tired yet, but when you get tired, you will change. And that's how these characters, they start off with something. We see their life, and is this like what you tell? How do you write the action? What you show that's around them, how their room appears, how their place looks, or the car, just anything. It says a lot, like what you show. Like the little things that you show, you introduce in the setup, that will lead to the development, and then eventually the resolution. So there's a lot of like, when you get into the second act, it's good to have a good strong setup, a good foundation. So when you get into the second act, then you kind of know these characters enough to have these conversations. Every scene should have some type of intent and goal when you're writing it. If you're just writing to write, but sometimes it's good to flesh out the writing, because it's not like going to be your final draft. That it's good to get out all your writing, and if it's good or bad, it's good to do the raw pages. And that once you do the pages, then you start to write the draft, and then you go back in there. It's just like when you're writing an academic paper, or you're doing any type of other writing. It's not going to be like a blog, because when you write a blog, you just write the way you feel, at the moment. But it's more like academic paper. You go and you write it, and then you go back and change some things, and you revise it, and then you revise it again, and revise it, and then you change things and see what's working. So it's kind of like a work in progress. It's not like you can just bang out a script. Like, I'm gonna bang out a script so I could sell it. It doesn't go that way. It's like that, when Sylvester Stallone said he wrote like Rocky in 3 or 4 days, maybe the first draft though, but it wasn't like he banged out 4 days of writing and then sold the script. Like I'm sure it took some work, because you could write a script if you really discipline yourself and you focus and you're really determined and you're like, I want to tell this story. You can write a script in a week or two if your life allowed you to, like if you had the time to sit down. but it's not going to be your final draft, that you're going to have to go through it and see what works. And not everything we write is going to sell, and maybe we never sell, but we have to trust that we're making a difference, and we have to feel good about our writing. So if we feel that we have this passion and this desire and this purpose, and that it's in our soul, like we want to fulfill this life, and we have to write because we feel like it's this gift, and we have this urge or this thirst for it, then that's when you're gonna get the best writing. Is this if you're writing, for demand, you're like, I want to sell, and your whole focus is about making money, then you're gonna really struggle, and you're gonna have challenges, and that could really create other problems, like with your value, like your worth. So it's always good to know that if you grow with your scripts, then your characters will have more meaning, and like, what are you about? That's what you want to do. So thank you, and value yourself, respect yourself, love yourself. Peace out.